Before we wander on into the episode, I just want to make sure that everyone goes out there and hits up the YouTube, check out the Spotify, check out Apple, wherever you're listening or watching to this podcast, is to go down, like it, subscribe, hit the bell if it's YouTube. Make sure you're getting those reminders. We do put these out every week. So make sure you do all that. It helps us out. And in the long run, we can make better things. So again, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff.
That averages, I mean, you could do the math. It's 14 days, 2,700 miles. What does that average out to? Like 200 some odd miles a day?
Yeah, it's got it. I'm going to do that math real quick. 2,700 divided by 14. Yeah, 192 miles a day.
Ooh,
That's
cooking.
nuts. Yeah, it's crazy. And our longest day, not our fastest day.
We can wander our way over, because this is Wandering Ways.
What's Bigfoot possibility?
Clink!
What's up? What's up? How we doing?
Wanderers unite! Hey, 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 hey. No, it's all good, my guy. I'm pumped. You don't realize is this episode was just recorded, and I was like busting my ass to get back to Billings. I was late to the recording session time, and I had to introduce Mark and James. They've never met before. I had to introduce you two for the first time. Like I was like, you know what? They'll hit it off. It'll be fine.
No, it was good. No. We have a great interview coming up. I actually thought I was going to be the one late today because I have so much more free time now, and I have been just using it all. So I was afraid I wasn't going to get here in time.
No,
I've been off doing. I'm barely home still, and I'm not at work though.
You're good. You need it. You worked a lot. I had to drive 90 miles back, and I was busting ass back. And I don't think I slammed my hood down all the way because the one side was kind of lifting up at points. You get behind a truck and it really start going. You're like, oh God. And then I didn't really all the way tighten down the roof rack that I had Hayden. We drove over to Pray this weekend. I had Hayden custom build me a roof rack for the Jeep. Fits but perfect in with the manufacturer OEM rails. So, right, perfect, good cream of the crop, type stuff. And it's beautiful. But I didn't tighten it down all the way, with the bolts, because I have my roof rack essentially tightened down to the roof thing he built. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, I got to paint these things when I get back to Billings. I was like, I'll just hand tighten them, man. So you hear things shake a little bit sometimes on the interstate. You hit a bump, you're like, oh, let's hope to God this thing don't fall, And it's my first time being around his welding. He's talented at what he does. And the weld is like, I have my high lift, which is a really heavy tool, sitting just right up on these two pins. It'll hold. And I'm sitting there on the interstate, like, watch one of these we welded these today. One of these pins is going to just bust off. This thing's going to fall off. And I'm going to be like, oh, God damn it. And I'm going to be late for the interview. I'm not, though. I'm here.
No, you made it. Late, but you were late.
Yeah.
Not too bad, though.
Enough time for you guys to warm up so that the interview didn't have to be awkward at the beginning.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think it would have been awkward either way. Shoot, we didn't talk about bikes purposely before you got there. And as soon as we started talking bikes, it was game on.
You still haven't mentioned what kind of bike you had.
Oh, that's right. To be fair, so I mentioned I have the Trek that I bike, that I have as a mountain bike. Matt Buddy wants to buy it, but I told him, no, I'm going to actually start using it again. But for my main bike that I use, and the one I'm using in my triathlon that I got coming up at the end of June, which from when this comes out is, I think, let me do some math here, I hit a button. It's not very far out. It's 2.5 weeks from this moment right now that you're listening to this.
Well, the moment that this episode came out, because
Yeah, that's what I mean.
you
Like,
can
from
always
that
go
moment.
back to our episodes and
Yeah.
listen to our episodes. They don't just go away on the day they come out. You can go back to
Oh,
them.
that's true. So no, and that bike, what it is it's a Specialized Diverge. Specialized is the company for people that aren't bike savvy. I know when I was first getting into bikes and people kept calling it the Special or Specialized, I was like, what's so special about the bike? I don't understand it. But no, that's the brand of the bike. Yeah, so and it's a Diverge. It's a gravel bike, so it can go actually on from road to gravel roads. It's not made to go down like big jumps or anything like a mountain bike. Essentially, the reason why gravel bikes are a thing is because road cyclists got tired of being on the road and they kept seeing these like gravel roads or logging roads, and they're like, let's go on that road. And so they made a bike that can do both.
Nice. No, that makes sense. And for especially, you walk some of our hiking paths, you end up walking on places like that, and you do see that shared the road kind of
Yeah.
mentality with bikers. I'm just curious. I want to kind of poke your brain and kind of surprise our listeners. We talk about something really cool. We talk about a race that James actually competes in on the Continental Divide Trail. So definitely stay tuned to the episode to listen
Yeah,
to
that's
that.
actually a really cool part of the.
Would you do this race that he brought up? Where like I saw the light bulb go on.
Yeah, I don't. Part of me would say, yeah, I would.
It sounds like your cup
I
of
don't
tea.
want to. It sound 100% sounds like me, and so that's why I think I would consider it. But the thing is like, I'd said. I don't know if I said it in the interview or off podcast, but I want to run the Ironman. And so I want to get that part done first before I do any other bigger kind of things. So
There.
definitely like if I did, it wouldn't be for like 5 years type thing.
Hey,
I do really want to do a long bike trip, whether it's just Oregon, whether it's across the country or just something. I do want to. If it is this one, maybe it is that one. But
this one just kind of is a good one because you heard about it. I feel you.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of nuts. I don't want to give away a lot of it.
I know. Well, good.
But,
just talk about it using the describing factors.
Yeah, I mean, it blew my mind.
I bet it did. You're like, I get to touch the border wall. That's the finish line. Hell yeah.
Mainly the speed people are going at.
I know.
But let's not fret any longer. Let's just jump into the podcast right now. So, anyways, let's bring on James. All righty, we are back, and this time we have our good friend James here to talk about mountain biking and biking, probably just in general. Anyways, we just want to start off. Maybe James, introduce yourself. Tell us what you're doing right now, and I'm just going to jump right into the first question that I had lined up. Like, how did you get started into mountain biking in general?
Yeah, so I'm James. I'm currently living in Billings, Montana. I got started mountain biking growing up, honestly. So my parents, the house I grew up in, was in the middle, like it was a little cul-de-sac neighborhood that just stuck into a state park in Washington, Seattle area. So you could walk out, not my back door, but a lot of my friends' houses, it would just be, their back doors would be a little strip of lawn and then just trees and trails. So, I don't think until I got to college, I don't think I ever actually owned a road bike. It was all just, what we did growing up, like get on your bike, disappear into the woods all day and then be home for dinner. So that's kind of how it started.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's real cool. I'm assuming it's probably a lot of single track if it's out in the woods and stuff like that.
Yeah, mostly single track. We were hooligans. We'd try state park. There were rangers, but not many. So as we got older, into like early middle school, or we'd put shovels on our handlebars and ride all the way out to a corner where we thought we wouldn't get caught, and hike into the trees off trail and dig jumps and stuff. It's a really hilly area, so you could do. We had a couple little hidden spots that were kind of like I'd call it downhill freestyle kind of stuff. But we were
Okay.
middle schoolers. It wasn't anything huge, but as we grew, our jumps got bigger and so on and so forth. I don't do much of that anymore. I'm 31. I don't bounce.
I was gonna say I don't do any of the jumps, mainly because I'm not good at it. I'm more of a flowy. I like the flowy kind of just right in. You can get some real speed, maybe hit a corner here or there, but when it comes to the jumps, man, I pucker up and pull out.
Yeah. I'm trying to. I took a break from mountain biking through college. Just didn't have time and didn't have money. And I mean, Zach, you're probably sort of adjacently aware of how expensive mountain bikes really are when you start like really getting into it. It gets really spendy really quick. And so as a college student, it's like, you want to cart around a $1,500 and then the sky is the limit above that bike while you're in college, risk it getting stolen in town. It's got to live somewhere. Your apartment probably doesn't have a garage. Like, so I took a break and kind of fell off all the jump stuff, so to speak. And just a couple of years ago, I bought a dirt jump bike from a friend and I'm trying to get back into it, but it's scary. Yeah. I definitely have to like talk myself into like, don't chicken.
There's speaking of how expensive it is, I saw a really funny video. This guy was going to do like a YouTube video of a cost analysis of his bike. And like he plays the part of his wife or significant other, comes in and says, "Oh, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm going to do a cost analysis of all the different parts of my bike for YouTube." And she goes, "Oh, continue," and just stands there looking at him. And he goes, yeah, so this handlebar, this set, really great deal, $15."
Yeah.
Just starts going through it at all of these prices that are nowhere near like the actual prices.
Yeah. You come out with a bike that's like, oh, that's a $200 bike. And, I'm not trying to like cost shame people, but a lot of people just don't realize that like once you get above that kind of like, kind of your like big box store complete, you just like walk in, buy one off the shelf. Those are, even on the high end, those are like $600-700, which is makes some people really like bulk. And then you realize like, nah, even Giant makes some stuff down to like $600-700. But if you want anywhere decent suspension, anywhere decent running gear, anything like that, you're, like I said, you're talking 12 maybe is the lowest I'd want to go on. Like a $1,200 is my personal probably low end on a good like technical capable mountain bike.
Yeah, that would be, I'd probably agree with that one. When I got started into mountain biking, it was actually when I moved down to Humboldt. I bought this like $700 Trek bike. It was, my main purpose was to actually just drive from work home to work. That's what I wanted to use it mostly. And you could call it a mountain bike. I mean, it's kind of got suspension. It's definitely not made for it. But my boss was like, "Hey, I mountain bike and there's trails literally behind campus. Do you want to go?" And I was like, "I've never done it. Let's do it." And so that's how I got in. And now I still have that bike, but it's probably honestly worth more than $750 because I break it and put a new piece on it. And it's now the worth has gone up because I didn't want to be in the shop every other week.
Yeah. And honestly, what you pay for above that amount is like I'm not that great of a mountain biker. I mean, I compared to some people, sure, but I'm not going to sit here and like say I'm the best. But
you like, are. It's okay, James.
There are
it's
pro
okay.
riders. There are, of course, like pro downhillers could get on any bike and absolutely crush it. So you pay for making this a little bit easier or that a little bit smoother or whatever. So.
For sure. My boss down there, he has a nice mountain bike. And every now and then I would take it down or take it up some hills and like you can feel the difference. I mean, you feel the roots on my bike. On his, it's like going over clouds because he's just got the suspensions and everything. You're just like, oh, I can see why you fly down these hills.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible how far suspension technology's come too. Back in the day, and by that I mean like the late 90s, it was pretty common you get elastomer shocks. So the actual spring in the shock is a piece of like hard rubber, soft plastic kind of material. And that worked fine-ish when they were brand new, with that plastic hardened up over time. So you'd end up basically with a fully rigid mountain bike after like a couple of years. And the service for that, I believe you'd have to pull those little elastomer chunks out and either oil them or just replace them. I'm not quite sure. But now, you can get an air sprung shock that weighs nothing and does just as well, if not better, than most of the coil sprung stuff out there. Unless you're talking like full size downhill mountain biking, like Red Bull, Rampage, all that stuff.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I'm not super knowledgeable on the suspension systems, but he would put air into his suspensions like every ride or so and because I mean he sometimes would hit he hit all the jumps. I went either around him or I would roll him. But he'd come down hard sometimes.
Yeah. Well, you have to, that suspension, the air sprung suspension, will leak slowly over time. So you got to tune it to your own body weight. So that's probably the reason he's doing that. And you can kind of mess with a little bit if you're going to go do a big day where you're hitting giant stuff. You can air up a little bit, whatever. The coil sprung, ideally your suspension is always tuned to your body weight. So coil sprung, which is just your traditional spring, is a little bit heavier. And as long as you're confident that your body weight's not going to change super drastically when you buy that, you don't have to replace the spring. You just buy it with the spring that kind of matches your body weight and you're good to go. And I actually kind of prefer coil sprung. I don't currently own any. The resistance curve is a little bit less spiky. So air sprung, I guess I'll go this way. Air sprung, the graph is really, really low at the bottom. And then right at the end of your travel, the resistance spikes really hard. So you can blow through almost all of your travel. And then the last little bit's going to be really, really hard. Coil spring is a lot more mellow of a curve. So it kind of ramps up more gradually rather than having a spike at the end. So you can use a lot more of your suspension before you blow through it all.
That makes sense.
Which, air spring technology has come a long way. It used to feel like a bouncy ball. If you've ever taken like a bike pump and plugged the end and then tried to push down on the plunger, when you take your hand off, it just goes shooting back up. So damping technology and all that. It's amazing. Even in like 10 years. As far as I know, it all comes from the moto guys. They're just making, motocross stuff smaller and lighter enough that it can go on a bicycle.
Yeah, that would make sense that they're the ones kind of pushing, running through it,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you're putting that bam, bam, bam,
mm-hmm. Well, and I don't know if it's a causal relationship or what, but like, is better suspension technology allowing bicycle guys to go bigger, or are bicycle guys going bigger so the suspension technology has to get better to keep up? I don't really know.
Are you saying the bigger tires that I'm seeing a lot more of on the road, like people driving those big fat tire bikes?
So not necessarily. I'm still talking mostly suspension, but the fat tire stuff, that's actually a whole different can of worms. That comes from people snow biking in Alaska originally.
Okay.
Snow bike races in the winter in Alaska. And what they'd do is they'd take a grinder and cut a standard bike rim in half the long way, weld a section in the middle, and then weld the other side back on to make a wider rim. Okay. And then I think they seated I don't know what the tires were, because it's a funky tire. Like, you couldn't just stick a standard tire on it, but yeah, that's where those came from. Okay. And now I think mostly it's like hipster value. If you had one before anybody knew what the hell they were, it just looked kind of cool. It was a head turner, and like someone who's in the bike scene would see it and be like, "Oh, dude, did you race whatever that race was in Alaska?" Now it's just kind of like, it looks kind of fun. They handle decent in snow or deep sand too.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Is they're mostly used for. I heard sand. I didn't think the snow, but that makes a lot of sense for snow.
That's the story, I guess, that I've heard. I don't know if I read an article or somebody told me, but apparently, again, the 90s, just guys, bored bike shop dudes in the winter, just figuring out how to Frankenstein something together so they could keep riding.
It makes sense though when you think about it, just because up there it's winter most of the time. We don't think
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
No, for sure. How often are you getting out nowadays?
Oh man. Well, not very much recently. The season's about to start, but then it gets hot, so you got to get out early or late. Um, there are guys that even some I do try. I try to get out like once a week. It's tough though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to get out more, but that's kind of anybody that runs or bikes or has any kind of hobby knows how that goes. Like, yeah, this is my thing. Okay, well, how often do you actually do it? Well, once a month. I don't know.
When I can, really, and that's what's good about it. And I
Yeah.
I mean, what's nice about Billings is there's a lot of good trails actually around Billings.
Hmm.
Um, and we actually do an episode on Eastern Montana, and Eastern Montana Billings is in that. And like, that's one thing I think people don't get is like the rims here, like you can bike them. There's tons of bike paths all throughout town.
Yeah.
Wasn't it voted one of the most like bike friendly towns in America based on like the outdoorsy trails we have?
Mhm. It was. That was. I'm gonna out that study a little bit. That was one of
Okay.
those deals where, yes, it was, but that was one of the. If you're talking about the Outside Magazine one,
I think so.
um, that one was one of those deals where like every voter can vote once a day. So as long as you keep your campaign going in town. So we just
Yeah.
had a big enough voter base that just stuck in a vote every day. So we kind of nominated ourselves. But I guess that says something about how like proud we are of what we have.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I mean, you see it here in town. You see the mountain, you see the bikes. There is some really good
Hmm.
bike shops in town too.
Yeah, yeah, we've got a really good bike scene. One of the problems that we have with our trail system is our inability to market it. So it crisscrosses the land out here. The public land is checkerboarded with private land, and that's literally a checkerboard in most places. There are a few places where private owners have bought up more than one piece of the checkerboard, but if it's been unmessed with, it's a checkerboard. So what happened when these trails were originally put in, this was just like non-arable whatever land, like Reberg bought
Yeah,
a bunch of
people.
land and like, yeah, some guy and didn't care what anybody was doing on it, just don't light it on fire.
Yeah.
Um, but those trails got established enough that years down the road, when that person wants to put a house on that land or whatever, there is an easement that allows that trail to continue to exist. Basically, that trail is still being used. It's been there for long enough. You can't just bulldoze the trail and build a house, which is pretty cool. But it
Yeah.
means that, like, as the houses get built, and those homeowners aren't necessarily stoked that they still just have like beer drinking shithead bikers riding through their backyard, right? Um,
That makes sense though, because when you go over to that was that West Park or whatever off of Shiloh, off by Rimrock there, they
mhm.
have that big like cement path for bikes that goes through their neighborhood.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I don't ride down there that often. I don't know if that is one of those, but that is how it works up on the rims.
That
And I'm
makes sense.
trying to remember why I brought that up. Oh, the deal with the landowners in most cases is you can still have these trails. We're not going to mess with you. You just can't publicize it. And publicize it includes making maps of any kind.
Oh,
And it's a spider web of trails up there. It's if you don't know where you're going, it's pretty easy to get lost. So you can bring friends, whatever. And there are people who have done hand drawn maps and like photocopied them and handed them out, whatever. But in terms of like billingstourism.org or whatever, publishing a really good satellite view map of all trails with all the difficulty ratings and all that stuff, we can't. So it's lesser known here. People talk a lot about the kind of more, I guess, traditionally is the word I'm going to use, touristy cities like Missoula or Bozeman, or these kind of cute little high Rocky Mountain towns as having good biking, and they do, but Billings also has good biking, and in some cases better, but no one knows about it. So
No, it
we're
makes sense.
trying
We have the space.
to spread.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's not even like grazable. So, it's technically grazing land by law. Like, oh, cows can eat here, but it's just a pile of rocks. Like, what, you know?
Yeah. And it's that like sandstony rock where it's like, what's good with this?
Yeah.
I do like Eastern Montana. I try and get Mark out here quite a bit, as much as I can, because there's something to it.
Yeah, I've only been a couple times though. Only been a couple times.
We call it we joke that it's mini Moab because it's so rocky out here. It's just techie. There's basically no flow trails out here.
Oh, really?
There are a few, but they're not in town. You got to go to Acton for that. It's like a half-hour drive outside of town, but we're getting there.
But Acton's not terrible. That's a pretty good, well-established one.
It is, and it's getting more and more established. You know, the trails in town are getting busy enough that the people who really, really want to ride, or they'll just say like, screw it, I'm going to drive to Acton. And that is more of a flow trail situation. So there's a road that goes down into some farmland, and it's a dirt road that's pretty rudimentary, but it at least allows the existence of the road allows us to have single direction of travel trails out there, which is pretty cool. It's the only thing like it anywhere close to Billings.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. I've just taken my Jeep out there.
Yeah.
That's my hobby, right? When you guys are talking dollar bills and everything, I'm like, yeah, no, I get it. When you're like, yeah, that little gas can, that's how much that costs.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to do this fucking thing. Yeah, I get it.
Oh, I'm sure it gets real quick for you.
Yeah, it's like,
yeah.
That's why you got to have a guy like Hayden to custom weld shit for you. You got to know a guy that knows a guy.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. So I was kind of thinking of getting into sport fishing again, but I feel like I need a good quality net.
Well, you know what, Reverend? I got the key solution for you. You know, our friends at Blue Ribbon Net make this eco-friendly aquafade bag, so you're not hurting the environment. It's 100% biodegradable. Plus, the wood is locally sourced, and it is also biodegradable, and it's just such a great company to use. The Blue Ribbon Nets, they're here in Bozeman, Montana, and we even have a discount code. That's right. If you use the code Rougarou10, that's right. That's my Jeep, the Rougarou. Rougarou10, RUGARU10. You're going to get some discount on a Blue Ribbon net. You know, you can get the long one if you're fishing the big fish, or you can get just the good river one, you know, if you're like me and just want to catch a lot of fish.
So again, make sure you go check out Blue Ribbon and use the promo code Rougarou10.
Hey there, Reverend. I heard that you might be running dry on your sticker supplier.
Yeah, I've been looking around and I've kind of like run out of cool stickers to buy and put on water bottles and stuff.
Well, I mean, have you seen the stuff Josh has been coming out with lately?
No, I have not.
Well, he is doing some really cool stuff with the Shop LS 574. Yes, they're working with indigenous communities and making some really cool stickers. He has a really cool Buffalo Mountain sticker. There's even water bottles, hats, sweatshirts, the whole swag. And we even got a discount code for you guys. Yes, if you use Wandering Ways at Shop LS 574, you're going to be getting a discount on your next purchase. But not only that, you're going to be giving a percentage of that sale to the Little Shell Tribe, as well as they donate $1 of every sale to murdered and missing Indigenous women. So just such a cool thing going on there. You know, you use the code Wandering Ways, WANDERING WAYS, and you put that in there, boom, you're getting a discount.
Anyways, biking, there's a lot of cool shit that happens with biking. And speaking of cool shit, James, we have a reoccurring theme on this podcast, roughly about this time through, where we show some videos, pictures of cool shit in nature, or as I call it, just cool shit in nature. So this week, I have lined up two for you, for all of us. One of them actually is pertinent to what we're talking about today, but that's the second one. This one here is just a cool picture of a bunch of, I believe, starlings are these birds.
Oh, that's birds.
Yeah,
Oh,
and there's so many of them, they form like a mass, like almost I don't know what you really would call that.
That's amazing.
A flock of birds.
I knew there was a term for it, and it's in the URL up there. It's a murmuration, apparently.
A murmuration.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them, and they make like you imagine you see bugs look like that all the time, like the big cloud of bugs.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
the thing that gets me is like we just don't, as far as I know, we still just have no idea why they do that.
Oh yeah, in the form, in like why they do it in the different like shapes and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we do know exactly why.
I'd want to know.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people that want to know.
Because like that, like even like geese and whatnot, like all bird, like they move in such like a synchronizing way,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyways, here's the second one. It's just mountain biking because that's some cool shit in nature. I had a little extra time to find it, and I found it took me maybe like a minute to find a mountain biking video on my Instagram feed. So
yeah. Dude's got some good flow. Ooh, nice.
Yeah, no, I thought this one would be fun because of what we're talking about today.
Are either of you this good?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
At least not in the air. I can't do what that guy's doing.
You can't do the jumps.
Yeah, I'm not getting airtime.
That's wild, actually. Those are some huge jumps that he's doing.
I might be able to roll one or two of those, but for the most part, I'm not doing that.
I get it. I mean, I get it. I tried it. My dad he built a little loader ramp for his tractor so he could back his truck right up to it. And I tried taking my brother's BMX bike off it, and I just face planted into the gravel. So it wasn't good.
There's some techniques to learn before you just go like send it off of something, for sure.
I mean, I tried.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have any gnarly crashes?
Oh, I've got one, and I don't really have any I have two. One is a way worse or a way dumber crash, but a worse injury. The one that didn't injure me, but looked like it really could have. One of the trails we have up here, there's a really stupid techie climb, not very tall, but really, really steep with a bunch of big rocks sticking out of it. You just kind of have to monster truck your way through it. And at the top, you end up in like a drainage where a creek comes down, and you kind of cross the creek and go out the other side. But the way the trail is situated when it crosses the creek, if you fall to the downhill side, you end up in the creek bed, and it's maybe 5 feet down, but it's a creek bed, so it's full of rocks and trees and gnarly shit. And I made this climb, but I was going really, really slow, too slow to keep my balance around the corner, and just like kind of high-sided, went like up over my handlebars and took a dive into the creek bed head first. It was fine, but everyone around me was like, "Oh shit, we're gonna have to walk James out of here." Like, God damn it, he's broken something. But no, that one was scary, but I didn't hurt anything. And the other time was biking without a helmet, very, very drunk, in town with my girlfriend, riding home from the bar. And I've never been able to do like a nose manual, not a stoppie where you just jam on the front brakes and like in place, but like lightly jam on the front brakes and just get your rear up and then just kind of keep traveling, right? Never been able to do that, even sober. Drunk brain was like, I'm gonna show off to Emily. What happened was, at full tick on the bike I actually did the divide route on, which has some real grabby brakes, I just was going as fast as I could and jammed on the front brake as hard as I could and just went flying and whacked a pretty good hole in my scalp.
Oh God.
And middle of the afternoon in the summer, so it's still broad daylight out, and here I am sprawled out on the sidewalk with blood all over my face.
Yeah.
So kids, ride with a helmet, and if you can help it, don't ride super, super drunk.
That's always important, both parts. I have crashed many a times on the mountain bike. There's one time I even caught one on my GoPro. I had a GoPro on I may have had it on my chest for one, but I was going down this one section, and again, because I have kind of a cheaper like Trek, it's so bumpy that my chain would literally just fall off, and so I couldn't pedal anymore. So my thought was, let's take a different line when I go down that's not as bumpy. And so I'm going down and I just got too much speed, and you can see like in the video, I just like reach out and you can see my hand and I just go toppling over. And then it's just me laying on the ground and you just hear me laughing my ass off at how dumb I was.
Yeah. Thank goodness most of those crashes you end up just laughing.
Yeah.
But you can get unlucky, you know. It's funny
yeah.
how, like, I was riding with a gal years ago who was riding clipless, which confusingly is what it's called when your shoes are clipped to your pedals. She was riding clipless and she came to a stop and just couldn't get her foot out in time. Really accomplished mountain biker, like super, super fast, really, really good. Just couldn't get her foot out in time and just tipped over into a bush and ended up like, I think she fractured her hip. Like, just tipped over at a stop.
Wow.
And yet, you know,
just classic pancake.
Yeah, just total pancake.
Wow.
So you just catch the wrong rock or the wrong bush on the wrong day.
Yeah, that's very true.
Well, you hinted to it earlier, and I'm curious. I want to know more about your Continental Divide trip, the preparation, because you put a lot into this. I know, because you were planning on doing the whole thing, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the idea. So my girlfriend and I, you know, we knew we wanted to do a big trip. We started looking at like endurance routes, you know, self-supported mountain bike routes, things like that. Globally, we didn't know where the hell we were going to go, but we were building our bikes. We both have the same bikes. They're Crust Scapegoats is what they're called. It's a kind of boutique-y brand, I think out of Australia, or at least the guy who owns the company is Australian. Okay. But he makes this bike frame that's sort of unique. The Scapegoat is sort of unique in that the hydraulic brake rotor spacing, again, nuts and boltsy again, is the same in the front and the rear, which is uncommon, which means you can swap your front and rear wheels if you have to. So what most people do with them is when they build a wheel or have a wheel built, they'll build two rear wheels and run a rear wheel as your front wheel as well. So if you put your cogs on your front wheel, or if you put your cassette on your front wheel, if your rear cassette goes out in the middle of the backcountry, you could just slap some gears on your front wheel, swap your wheels, and keep going. It's also, they're steel frame bikes, which is a little heavy, but you can stick weld steel. And if you're in the middle of the boonies in South America, somebody's got a car battery and some jumper cables, right? Like, so you can weld your bike. You can bang it straight with a rock if you like bend it in some way, where aluminum's a little more sensitive to that, and obviously carbon fiber, if you break it, you're just toast. Yeah. So anyway, we were building these bikes, and we were kind of like, all right, we're gonna have hardware before we know where we're going. And then we decided on the Tour Divide, which is the name of the bike race that happens on the Great Divide Trail, which at the time went from Banff, Canada to Antelope Wells, New Mexico, which is a border town. So the finish line is touching the border fence. And that's 2,700 miles. That was the goal. We made it 713 miles. It took us 2 weeks to do that. And the day we decided to call it quits was the day the first guy finished.
Whoa.
Yeah. So we were still in Montana by like 2 miles. We had like 2 miles left before we were going to be in southern Idaho. The route kind of dips into southern Idaho just for a second. And the guy was in Antelope Wells.
That's some serious mileage.
That averages, I mean, you could do the math. It's 14 days, 2,700 miles. What does that average out to? Like 200 some odd miles a day?
Yeah, it's got it. I'm going to do that math real quick. 2,700 divided by 14. Yeah, 192 miles a day.
Ooh,
That's
cooking.
nuts. Yeah, it's crazy. And our longest day, not our fastest day, but our longest day that we did was 96 miles. And that took like 13 hours or something.
Wow.
The dudes and the people, one of the fastest endurance riders in the world right now. In fact, she might be the fastest, is a woman from Alaska.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She rode, actually, she was on that race the year we rode, and she rode from wherever she lives in Alaska. I think it's southeastern. She might be like a Anchorage or something. She rode from Anchorage or wherever she's from to Banff with like a week to spare, and then started the race. And yeah, bonkers, absolutely nuts. These
That's
people are
literally
like,
she probably doesn't have a car.
I mean, who knows? Her name's Lael Wilcox. She's an absolute badass.
I'm writing
Wow.
that one down because I'm gonna look her up.
Mark's gonna look it up. He's gonna say she's got a book and I'm gonna read it.
She might. I don't know. She's super cool. I don't. The guy there, the outright record for this race was set by a guy whose name escapes me now, but it was set. Shit, I want to say 5 years ago, but that's not right because that's like basically when we rode. It was like 5 years before that, so I don't know, 8-10 years ago, and he was killed doing a Trans-Australia race by one of the truck trains. He was in the middle of the boonies, no lights, nothing. He and a guy were competing, the story I've been told anyway. He and a guy were kind of head and head, like trading spots on first place. And the guy that he was competing against pulled off to get a little bit of rest. And the world record setter, I wish I could remember his name, rode by without any lights on so that the other guy wouldn't know that he'd been passed in the middle of the night and wouldn't try to like go fast to catch him again. But with his lights off, the truck driver didn't see him and, just smoked him. Yeah. The cutthroat world of endurance mountain bike racing.
It's a world, and when you're talking the money you're talking for these bikes, that only goes up exponentially for those guys, and that just tells you what kind of players are involved in these games.
Yeah.
So
you sure the truck
purse.
Oh, go ahead. I was just saying, you sure the truck driver wasn't involved with that other guy?
Yeah, right. There's no purse to any of these races, though. That's the thing. Like, there's no winning, so you're not getting anything. You just.
I was going to say the prize money is like probably a free meal.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah,
that's wild. But so, what kind of terrain is it like? I guess the Divide Trail.
So the route is, we expected it to be most single track, which it was not, and that makes sense. It's the world's. By percentage of off pavement, I believe it's the world's most off pavement endurance race, and it's like 95% off pavement, and it's very specifically off. It's very specifically off pavement, not off road. So what we ended up riding was a lot of logging roads and like gravel roads and like county, like rural county access type stuff. But especially north on the route, like right outside of Banff, was very single track, which was awesome because that's Emily and my, like, that's our bread and butter. We were sitting there in the parking lot waiting for the start gun to go off, looking at all these people. They're like, holy shit, you're the fittest person I've ever seen. But what we came to learn is that a lot of these people from all over the world were just sort of endurance race enthusiasts of any kind. So a lot of like marathon runners and like rowers and things like that were just looking for the next challenge, but didn't have the chops on a bike. So one of the people we met actually was from New York City, like in the middle of the city, New York City. And her preparation, which made her incredibly in shape, was just spin classes. But she bought her bike either in Banff or like right before she showed up to race. And she did fine, but like Emily and I left all these, not everyone, but like 3/4 of the pack in the dust for the first 2 days until it turned into just like gravel roads and then just people passed us.
Because that makes sense though, because like you said, you kind of know what you're doing on the trails. It's just fun. And when you get on those other trails, it's just, it turns into just a flat race.
Yeah. And it just turns into like, who's the fittest, which is fine. But, Emily and I didn't do a ton of like fitness prep. We were a lot more, like I said, our whole thing, because we didn't even know we were going to do the Tour Divide. We just knew we were going to do something. So we built these big, heavy, slow, indestructible, but big, heavy and slow bikes. And we weren't that in shape compared to the people we were riding with or around. And so once it just became like, how far can you ride in a day on your really light bike, eat a Cliff Bar for dinner, get in the tent, sleep 3 hours, get up and do it again. That's where like we just got left in the dust.
And then you want to do, yeah, you're like, I would love to just camp here for a night. It'd be nice to sit by this lake or enjoy these deer. Yeah.
Well, and that was the other thing that we planned on doing. So again, we left the parking lot with like saddlebags. I wish I had a picture handy of our bags. We were like, if you see the Instagram posts of like, I trekked through Patagonia on my bike, like that's what our bikes look like.
Yeah.
The people that we were with had like one little saddlebag with like a bottle of water and their rain shell, and that was it. Because they knew if they could ride fast enough, far enough, they could get to the next town with a hotel and just sleep there.
Oh.
Which is what we ended up doing. We did not intend to race. We were going to tour, but we left with the race. And what it turned out, the way that race is set up, you kind of have to keep race pace.
Oh.
Because of where the refill stops are and where the handiest campgrounds are and things like that, you kind of have to keep up with the race if you want to do it comfortably, which we didn't know. So we would do the same mileage per day as like, we were kind of middle of the pack, like maybe 56, 57% of the pack. 200 some odd people left Banff. I think 13 finished, I want to say. It was a really wet year. It rained almost every day we were out for 2 weeks.
Ooh, that's
right. And
rough.
you're just camping.
Yeah, well, we camped a little bit because it was so freaking rainy and miserable. Like when we hit a town with a hotel, we just said, screw it, we're doing a hotel. But yeah, anyway, so we would do the same mileage as the racers, which actually kept us on race pace more so than we thought. But what would take a racer or someone keeping true race pace, like 8 hours, would take us 12 or 13. So we were leaving in the dark and showing up in the dark. And it just made us so exhausted and so like demoralized, because you might leave at the same time in the morning with everybody, and like you make friends with people. Obviously, you're kind of seeing them, you leapfrog each other, and we had a good group of people. But when you get to like 10 o'clock in the morning, and the faster riders are like, "Look, it's been great riding with you. I'll see you at the next town," and you just won't see them for 8 hours, which was like, for someone who was doing this for the first time, there are people that do this alone, right? Like people just do this type of thing alone.
You're convincing one right there. I'm just saying, you're convincing one.
And it's totally doable. And it's probably more sustainable. The people that set records on these routes do it alone because they don't want to be held back by social norms, right? They just put your head down, grind it out, make miles. But we were doing it for the first time, and something I just really didn't expect was how important morale would be, and how important people, at least for me, how important other people were to that morale. I
get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. You probably could have kept going, huh? Or was it Emily that could have kept going?
Well, so the day Emily got saddle sores, and I had repetitive stress injuries in both knees and one ankle that were starting to get like worse and worse. So when we called it, like we could have kept going, and there are documentaries about this route. And the one that I'm thinking of, there was a gal in like the mid 2000s was when this documentary was made. The one that I'm thinking of, that rode until her both ankles were literally the size of cantaloupes. And she took like a month off and then picked up where she left off and finished, which good for her. But like, I was sitting there thinking, like, at the time, what was I, like 26? Like whatever damage, I'm not the sports medicine guy. I don't know what kind of permanent damage I could do if I keep going. Yeah. The route gets drier and drier and drier as you go south. So we were looking at a whole day, one of the longest days. It would have been an 86-mile day through cow country, and all like everything online, all the research that we did was like, if you can help it, if you know you're going through cow country, pack all your water. Don't try to filter anything.
Ooh.
So like we were looking at 86 miles of packing our own water. The weather was gorgeous, but like both of us were hurting. We were starting to fall off of race pace. So we weren't around anyone we knew anymore. We were getting, at that point, we would only be getting further away from Billings. When we knew Emily's mom had said, like, look, if you needed to come get picked up, let me know. And like the route just gets drier and more rural the further south you get. So you're just further and further into the middle of the sticks. And we just said, look, it doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel convenient if we did need to like have an emergency, you know, hey, come get us out. Like, this is the spot. We just got to call it. So
that's wild. That's wild. Mark's like, I'm gonna do it, James. Mark will do it.
I mean, I maybe not in the near like year or two, but I've got my own. I'm trying to run an Ironman in like at least 2
Oh,
weeks,
damn.
so
He's doing the Missoula Marathon this year.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm doing the Missoula Marathon at the end of June.
His first marathon ever.
So
That's awesome.
it'll be interesting. I'm a little interested to see how it goes. So
I've never run a marathon. I've got really short legs, so running has never done great for me. I've never been the fastest. I've never been all that great at it. It just makes me tired. And the joke in the bike community is like, if you're running, is your bike broken?
Yeah, I definitely will not be the fastest, and I probably will not qualify for the Boston or New York marathon with the pace I'm running, but I think I have a goal set and I think I can hit it. I think it's going to be close, but I think I can hit it.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Nice.
Sure.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Fuck yeah. No, those things, people don't realize the preparation that it takes for just any event like that. I mean, like you said, I like your saddlebags, like there's people like you're living off your bike is what you're doing. And your bike's not that big to begin with.
No, it's not.
You're doing it 700 miles, 2 weeks. You're not showering. Yeah. Well, I guess at the hotels you could if you want, but
yeah, still, it's like an every other day kind of thing.
That's wild, man.
It was super cool. It was super cool. It was so our.
Would you do it again, but at a slower pace, no race?
I actually, Emily and I we've talked since we did it. We want to try it again, 100%. No, because the risk, especially, so it starts in early June, I think, is the takeoff time. And in Banff, like that far north, that early in spring, you're just risking such shit weather.
Yeah.
That like you kind of just have to keep race pace. So what Emily and I have discussed is rebuilding the bikes to be lighter and faster, and just trying to keep race pace rather than going slower. I would love to go slower. That was our whole plan, was to just tour it, like stop when we're tired, whatever. But it was just so like, I don't care how dry your dry bag is. If it's raining that hard for that long, your tent and your sleeping bag are going to be wet. Yeah. They just are. And if they aren't when they come out of the bag, they certainly will be when they go back in.
Yeah. And
then you end up with the moldy tent, or like, you know, there's all sorts of problems that can cause. So it was just miserable weather, absolutely miserable. And there are people that do it south to north. There's an argument, like weather, WEA weather is the argument to be made for south to north. Because if you go south to north, you're into, it's going to be rainy down south too. And like New Mexico, all that area is all like bentonite clay. So you're going to be riding on like peanut butter for the first half of the ride. And then the second half, you might get nice, calm, or nice, mild, balmy, like Canada midsummer weather. Or you might just get more rain. So like it's a complete gamble. Yeah.
For sure. I think it's similar to like the argument for the PCT, you know, like everyone does south to north because it's hottest. It's not as hot in the desert when you're doing it. And then by the time you get to Oregon, Washington, Canada, you know, it's nice weather up here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of similar, but it happens so much faster. 2 weeks versus like 2 months, or how it, like, I don't know who the fastest PCT was.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but
have you done any?
The pace is vastly different.
Yeah,
Have you done any of the PCT?
I haven't. I've done a lot of hiking and climbing around the Northwest, but I don't really have too much of an interest in doing like endurance hiking. I'll do a little bit of backpacking here and there, but truly like endurance hiking seems like a whole other animal.
Yeah.
I don't.
I've done my only like endurance claim to any kind of fame is climbing 3 of the Cascades. So I've summited Rainier once and taken another. The first time I did Rainier, I did summit, and then I tried again and did not. I've climbed St. Helens 6 or 7 times and Mount Adams once.
Wow, you and Mark loves climbing those Cascades. He likes getting up on top of those too.
I've done St. Helens.
That's
and
cool.
then I did the South Sister too, because that's kind of an easy one to do. It's very similar to doing the St. Helens actually. I've wanted to do Adams and then possibly even Rainier, or I think Mount Hood would be a lot of fun to do too.
Yeah, my dad's done that one. I haven't.
What? So for Mount Rainier, are you putting on like cleats and shit going up that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow! Tell me about that. You can tell. It's the Wandering Ways podcast.
Yeah, so we did it both times I've done it. It's been a 3-day attempt. Well, I say attempt because the second time I didn't make it, but it was a 3-day thing. So you go, most people go to Camp Muir as base camp, which you get well above the tree line. It's above that. It's just a snow ramp up to Camp Muir. There's a, what was FDR? Oh, like a New Deal. There's like a little New Deal camp. It's a couple rock huts with log roofs on them that just have bunks in them. So you sleep inside that night. You go from there to high camp, which is around the other side of the mountain. So you kind of do this like gradual traverse with a little bit of like rock scramble. And you put your crampons on at the bottom of that rock scramble, which is really goddamn annoying to put. Hollywood makes you think that crampons are for snow and ice, but no. You put your crampons on right at the bottom of a completely bare like rock face, scramble up that, and then traverse across, and you actually set high camp on a glacier, which is pretty cool. And then above that, usually there's 1 or 2 ladder bridges across crevasses, and you're roped up for that in like 3 or occasionally 4-person teams. And then after that, it's just a snow ramp. You just grind your way to the top.
Oh wow.
And then, so if the weather's bad, you'll sleep at high camp again on the way back down. And if the weather's good, you'll go high camp, summit, and then all the way back down to base camp in one day, which is a long fucking day. That's a lot of time on your feet, I will say, but it's a lot more comfortable if you can stand it.
I bet. Anyways, I got to be that guy. We are starting to run out of time, but it is time for our final words. So we do this at the end of every podcast. It's final words. You can say literally anything you want. If you have a PSA, a poem, a short story, whatever you would like, this is the time to say it. And since you are our guest today, James, I want to let you go first. So final words, my guy.
I don't have anything as fun as a poem, but I just want to thank you guys for letting me relive some of this stuff, like whenever you do something you're proud of or whatever, your friends and family get tired of hearing about it after about the first week. So it's nice to be given an excuse to talk about it.
Oh yeah, this podcast, we none of our family listens. Like we'll ask them, so we'll talk shit. Like there's episodes on here where I just talk shit about, like, and I know Jared will listen to this one, so he'll hear it. But there's episodes where I talk just shit about him, and he's like, "You didn't bring that up. It's been like 6 months, man." So
I will say hello, Jared. Then
yeah, you go.
Awesome. Final words, my guy.
Thank you, James. I just want to thank you first for coming on. We really do appreciate it. We love talking, cool things. I know Mark's a big mountain biker. Mark's gonna have to tell his bike here at the end. You haven't said it yet. I've been waiting for you to say what kind of bike you have, because I don't know. I don't know bike lingo. But I definitely go find your hobby. Both you guys love to get outdoors, go biking, go hiking, go see good things. Today I was jeeping. That's part of the hobby. I wasn't jeeping. I was getting down and fucking doing nothing today. I was watching Hayden Weld, but
Well,
it's all good.
If anybody's listening in the Billings area, get out and ride some trails. We got some good ones.
Kalman is in our everyday backpacker. I'm not sure if you know who he works up at base camp. He
oh, cool. No, I don't.
Hiker. I don't know if he bikes. I know he's a hiker, but yeah, I don't know. He listens in sometimes. I think. I hope he said he did.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Just kidding. All right, Reverend.
Reverend's final words of wisdom. First, James, thank you so much for coming on today. It was a blast to talk biking. I don't get to talk biking too much, so anytime I get to, it's an absolute hoot and a holler. That Continental Divide trip tour sounds nuts. For sure, that was super cool to hear about. I can't thank you enough for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure. Stay beautiful out there, everybody. Go out there, have some fun, do something you like, and get out moving. Enjoy the sunshine. Summer is coming. It's going to get too hot, maybe, or maybe not hot enough. We don't know. Hopefully no fires. But with that being said, peace out, everybody.
Bye.